When Shen Miao got out of the academy and returned to the Shen residence, the skies were becoming dark. Shen Yile and Shen King did not return together with her, and Shen Miao could not be bothered to care about them. Old Shen Furen had already gone to rest, so she went back to the west courtyard. Just as she reached the west courtyard, a warm voice called out, "Young lady has finally returned." This old servant heard that young lady had fallen into the water and was very worried. Seeing that young lady as well, this one's heart can finally be at ease. Turning her head to the side, Shen Miao saw a middle-aged woman walking over with a smile. This woman was about 40 years of age, with a somewhat fat stature, slightly darker skin, and wearing a green dress and a thick silver bracelet on her wrist. Even though it looked ordinary, the material used was good. "Gimomo," Shen Miao faintly replied. That woman did not think she had done anything wrong and continued preaching. This old servant wanted to come over earlier, but Ranner was ill. After much tossing and turning and seeing there was no other choice, one could only pass Ranner to his mother and come back to the residence first. Seeing that young lady is all right, this one's heart can settle. The main point of these words was to say that Shen Miao's position in her heart was more important than her own grandson. If it was as usual, after listening to these words, Shen Miao would be greatly moved and give Gi Momo some tales to get a physician for her grandson. But after her rebirth, Shen Miao almost laughed at her own naivety when she saw the woman in front of her. In the beginning, how blind was she to think that such a person was a loyal servant? Not long after Shen Furen gave birth to Shen Miao, she set off with Shen Xin. Since Shen Miao was too young and could not bear the difficulty of traveling, Shen Furen could only reluctantly leave her in Shen residence. Shen Furen hired a wet nurse for her, who was the current Gi Momo. Gi Momo was born on a farm on their estate, and at the beginning, Shen Furen saw that she was diligent and honest. Afterwards, when she saw Gi Momo treating Shen Miao very well, she then felt assured to leave her at Shen Miao's side as a training Momo. But in this world people will change. There were already very few people in West Courtyard, and the ones calling the shots were the two other households and old Shen Furen in the East Courtyard. Gi Momo initially took care of Shen Miao honestly, but after some time passed, she saw the power situation clearly and did not hesitate to defect to old Shen Furen's side. When Shen Miao was initially bent on marrying Fu Shiyi, Gi Momo fanned the flames with her flattering words. But the most detestable thing was that, in the beginning, when old Shen Furen brought her grandniece from far away to seek refuge with the Shen family, that grandniece accused eldest brother Shen Kia of ruining her innocence and insisted on getting him to take responsibility. She finally became her sister-in-law and created a mess out of eldest brothers in her courtyard, and Gi Momo was supposedly the witness to the insult Shen Kia inflicted upon this grandniece. To think about it now, it was nothing but a bad show. Once disloyal, one cannot be used for 100 times. Moreover, with such a person as Gi Momo, who was 100 times disloyal, Shen Miao naturally had to tidy things up. When dealing with a dog that ran to others, might as well kill it rather than continuing to rear it. After Gi Momo waited for a long time without hearing Shen Miao giving out a reward, the loving look on her face stiffened. She could not help but look up at Shen Miao, but only saw looking indifferent, as if it was nothing special. Her heart suddenly made a quang dang sound. She did not know why, but she suddenly felt guilty. In the next moment she heard a short and bland answer from Shen Miao. "Oh, it is really hard for Momo." Gu Yu snorted softly and looked at Gi Momo with a sneer. She had always looked down on Gi Momo for being a flattering, vile person who relied on her identity as young lady's wet nurse to throw her weight around in the West Courtyard. But her own young lady was previously coaxed by this Gi Momo so well that she listened to much of what Gi Momo said and strained her relationship with many of the people in the West Courtyard. It was good now. After young lady had woken up from falling into the water, it seemed that she saw many things clearly, and her lukewarm attitude towards Gi Momo brought a great sense of comfort to Gu Yu. Gi Momo continued to smile stiffly, as she was unable to figure out why Shen Miao was treating her with such coldness today. thinking that Shen Miao was not happy due to the matter of falling in the water. She consoled. This servant will say a word of advice to young lady. One must not be overly sad. Protecting one's health is the important thing. Young lady is as pretty as a flower and His Highness Prince Ding will definitely like you. There will always be a day. She would often say such pleasing words and would usually pick up on Shen Miao's likes to achieve her favor. But when these words were spoken today, she saw Shen Miao's face change. For Momo to say such words, is it to put a stain on my innocence? Shen Miao coldly said. Although father and mother are currently not in the general's residence, I am the young lady of the general's residence and the mistress of the West Courtyard. For the reputation of one's innocence, with what Momo had said, is it to deliberately trap me in the pits of fire and water? Momo was surprised for a moment before she subconsciously said, how can young lady say it that way? This old servant said it for your sake. So this is saying it is my fault? Shen Miao coldly laughed. This is also good. Why not ask old Furin? If the innocence of a daughter from the general's residence is as valuable as a cabbage, even a cabbage is worth a few coins. Momo, for you to be so honest, I want to ask if I was overly shameless. Perhaps she did not expect that Shen Miao would seize the momentum and take her bad mood out on her. Momo was already used to being a tyrant in the West Courtyard and normally she could control Shen Miao very well. But today, to be brought down a peg in front of Yu and Jinghe, she was somewhat angry and could not help saying, young lady's words are making this slave look evil. This old slave has followed by young lady's side for more than 10 years. Why would young lady think that this old servant would deliberately harm others? Insolent! Jinghe loudly shouted. Young lady is the mistress. How dare Momo speak to young lady like that? Momo was so surprised and upset that she became too agitated just now. But words were like water that was poured out and could not be retrieved. And there were so many servants around watching the commotion. She could only treat Shen Miao as an easily coaxed young girl and quickly said in a soft voice, young lady, this old servant truly does feel distress for young lady. This old servant has followed young lady for so many years and has already taken young lady as one's own child. What this old servant said was not correct. Young lady mustn't get angry and cause harm to the body. Taken her as her own child? Shen Miao sneered in her heart. She felt that this Momo was a genius. Usually she would receive a lot of gold from the West Courtyard but treated the East Courtyard as the official master. In the end, she made her eldest brother eat up such a huge disadvantage. If it was her previous lifetime in the palace, she would have gotten someone to beat up and kill a servant like this. But now since Momo had the heart to join the East Courtyard, how about using her hands to let them suffer a huge loss? She raised her eyebrows as she spoke in a light tone. Since Momo knows, then one will only punish with 3 months of salary. Momo's facial expression stiffened as a smile appeared on Shen Miao's lips. What would Momo do when there was no more money? Naturally, pledge her loyalty to the East Courtyard.